Welcome to the Tell Our Stories podcast. I'm Perry Chris.
And I'm Steph Bender. On today's episode, we got the chance to attend and volunteer with Ageless Aviation.
Ageless Aviation is an organization that, since 2011, has been taking veterans up for a flight in a fully restored 1943 Stearman. They have been able to take nearly 7,000 veterans in 49 states on these flights.
We had the opportunity to speak with founder Daryl Fisher, as well as some of the veterans and their families after the flight.
This episode is also very special to us because this is the first episode we have been able to record on site and be able to interact with the seniors themselves throughout the day.
Seeing the joy on not only their faces, but on the faces of their family members was truly priceless. We hope you're able to hear their excitement in the episode.
We also want to apologize as we experienced some slight audio issues with mine and Steph's microphones, so our audio is a bit quieter than normal.
Nice going, Perry.
I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
So fasten your seatbelt, put your seat backs and tray tables up, and thank you for flying with Tell Our Stories. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to sit down with us. It's so great to be able to hear how the experience was.
Can you start by telling us your name?
Ken Wilt, W-I-L-D-T.
Can you tell us about how it was flying?
It was great. It was quieter than I thought. There was a lot of noise from the engine, but it was quieter, and all the gauges were in front of me, so I was seeing what he was seeing as far as how high we were and altitude and speed. So we were like right around 85 miles an hour and about 1,000 feet up. So
Not too shabby.
yeah, it was very nice. We went over Pewaukee Lake, and being around my lifetime in this area, I recognized most of the landmarks, you know.
Sure.
So,
Did you go around here?
in the Milwaukee, Menominee Falls, Lannon, Sussex area. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So
Is this
he took a couple of little turns, you know. And I thought he was going to go into a barrel roll, but we only got about eighth.
Okay. Not sure we had clearance for barrel rolls.
So nice, beautiful day for flying. They're so blessed. I mean, we're put in between two rain days. You know,
Yeah.
God has been good. We're a blessed family.
And is this your first experience in Ageless Aviation?
No, actually, when we were out in Fort Lewis, Washington, I was in a forward observation plane. I was in Division Artillery. And they took us up in what they call the L-19, which is a very small, like Piper Cub, if you know what that means. When you open up the windows, you were like, this was the width of the plane, and
Jeez.
there it was. So, but we communicated with another plane that was going on, and so it was a fun experience at that time too.
I bet.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your service?
Well, my brother and I were in a business, and that they were asking if I wanted to be drafted, and of course, we weren't looking for that, but then they said if you join up in a reserve unit, which was the National Guard at that time. So I did. So I went in for the 6 months and got out and was doing my training meeting on weekends, and then summer camps. And then we were on our honeymoon, and all at once it said on the radio, the 32nd Division's on alert. And my wife says, "Is that you?" I said, "I never heard of those guys." So we're in New York, and it said Wisconsin's famous Red Arrow Division, right in capital letters, big, bold letters on top of the New York Times, that you're on alert. I said, "Never heard of those guys." So we got home, and I was supposed to be signing out because my time was in, but then everything was frozen. So they said, "Go home and go into business, get married, go to school, whatever." Well, 3 days later, on the radio, they said you're on active duty, so report to your company commanders.
Wow.
And so we did. And 5 weeks later, I was out in Fort Lewis, Washington, in uniform, and with our unit, which was a Division Artillery headquarters battery. So that's where we were for 10 months, and came home, and our oldest son, who's not here with us today, he's with us but not here.
Important distinction.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you say, right? And so he was a month old when I got home. So that was the start of our 63 years of marriage and 5 children and 12 grandchildren and 5. Well, we got 5 great grandchildren.
4. 5.
Five.
Louis. It's not all about you.
You forgot about Louis. But 4 of our 5 children are with us here today. So So that's good, guys. How are you?
You're doing amazing. These are really incredible stories. Thank you and your family.
Yeah.
For your
There's a
sacrifice.
fellow behind me that's on the plane now, Bob Bergman, and he's 95. I'm only 88, almost 88. I lie a lot. When it comes to age, my kids know that. I stretch it a little. So
I got it. Don't worry.
it's doing a miracle day of something I never thought would even think about doing. It was a great experience, and just to be up there in the open air on a beautiful day, and it's just the feel of the power of that single engine. But it was great. It was a wonderful experience, and I'm very pleased and happy, thankful to all the people who put their time and efforts into this. And especially, I understand that the pilot that we had was the one who started this program.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool for someone to take that on.
Yeah.
Never heard of it until we got into the senior living program at Capri, and I filled in last year but didn't get selected. And
Sure.
This year I was fortunate enough to be assigned the first seat.
Yeah. The flagship flight.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us. We hope you had a great time up in the air.
We did.
Great.
It was excellent.
Lovely. If we could have you introduce yourself, that'd be great.
My name's Robert Bergman.
Okay. Great.
And can you tell us a little more about the flying experience, being up in the air?
It's the first time I've been on a small plane like that, but it was smooth. The guy flying it, he just didn't know what to do, and
Yeah.
we hit probably just a little turbulence, but
Okay.
nothing that.
Nothing too crazy.
I've been on big jets and things like that, so this was a cakewalk.
Sure. Is this your first time participating in this program?
Yes,
Okay. And would you like to come back next year?
well, no, I think it'd be nice to have somebody else.
Okay.
Sure. That's getting kind of greedy.
Spread the wealth. Spread the wealth.
I
Right.
think you would come back to root them on.
Sure. Sure.
What branch did you serve?
The Army.
The Army.
Okay.
I was drafted.
You were drafted. And how old
So-
were you?
I was in from 51 to 53. I think I was 22 or 23.
Okay. Wow.
I ended up in California.
Oh, okay.
I was 6 months in the state of Washington, Fort Lewis, and then we went down to San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
Would you recommend this this flight program to other people looking to do it?
Recommend it?
Yeah.
But certainly.
Yeah.
This is amazing that they're able to do this for the people.
Absolutely.
When he got off, the first thing he said to me, it was fantastic.
Oh, good.
But I never went on the honor flight to Washington.
Okay.
But I have gone to Washington a couple times, so let other people go. So
Sure.
I've seen a lot of things in Washington D.C. So.
Yeah.
But this honor flight here is really, really neat.
I'm so glad.
I'm so glad you got to experience it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you fly in any similar planes when you were serving?
just to fly home.
Okay.
No, that was a commercial flight.
Sure.
So
Okay.
when I was working, I flew in a Cessna,
Okay.
a four-seater,
Sure.
and but most of the time it's jets, and anything from 10 wide seating to a seat on both sides.
Okay.
That was exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because we
great.
went into an airport, and the interesting part about that was it's open cockpit in those planes,
Yeah.
and so I could see through the front end of it, and I could see this thing is going back and forth. There's the runway, and then all of a sudden, he had quite a bit of turbulence.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but
What's the part of today you're going to remember?
Today, the amount of people,
Yeah.
uh,
Big fan section.
you know, our whole family and friends, and then to have something this beautiful, you know, it's not a nickel and dime operation.
Yeah.
I'm used to having fun. We go to our family, or a bunch of us go to Disney World quite a bit.
Oh, lovely.
And so that's how we set our tone of fun. And
That's the bar.
the bar is set kind of high, but you couldn't beat, you know, what they're doing here.
That's terrific. Thank you so much for taking the time. It was lovely to meet you and get to talk to you.
No problem.
Busy day.
Oh, it's an awesome day, huh?
Yeah.
Have you guys been out here before?
This is our first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty amazing, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
It's crazy that this even got going, you know?
Yeah. If we could start with you just introducing yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, Daryl Fisher. I'm the founder and president and one of the pilots for Dream Flights.
All right. I'd love to hear about how this got started.
The Dream Flights got started quite by accident, honestly. You know, if I take you back in time, my grandmother and grandfather are both pilots. My dad's a pilot. My uncles are pilots. And so I grew up around airplanes. I can't even remember. There's just like a family car, airplanes. They had their own airstrip. They were farmers, wheat farmers. And in 1965, they made an investment in nursing homes. So if you want to do some math, I was 2 years old. So I grew up literally around airplanes, aviation, and the elderly.
Yeah.
And through the course of time, developed a passion for both. So I went to flight school and got a commercial pilot's license, but I had no intention of flying professionally. I just wanted it for my own purposes.
Sure.
And I got a business degree and got into the family business, which was senior living.
Yeah.
And so I you know, have a passion for aviation and I have a passion for seniors. In 2011, 2008, 9, and 10 were really tough financially for a lot of businesses, but in my business in particular, it was really tough. And so I was involved in a very large bankruptcy. It got resolved in 2010, and I was kind of out of work in 2011, figuring out how to start my new company.
Sure.
And my dad called me and said, hey, he had his biplane. He had one of these biplanes restored in Mississippi, and he lived in Oregon. And he said, hey, will you go to Mississippi with me and fly the airplane back? Because he lost his medical, and he was older, and he couldn't fly anymore, but he wanted to go with me. So I got to think, and I said, yes, just tell me when you want to go, because I was pretty much unemployed. Mm-hmm. And he was paying the bills. So exactly. I was using his credit card and his airplane, and life was good, right? And I didn't have any, you know, I could be gone. Mm-hmm. So when I ran the big company, we had almost 300 communities, and we had this program called Ageless Dreams. And the idea is we challenged our communities to do something unique and different that a resident wanted to do, either because they'd done it before or they had never done it. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to do it. So I challenged each of the communities to do that, and that was just a really special program. So I got to thinking about our trip. He asked me in February, and we weren't going until late March. And I got to thinking, I thought, you know what? We have to make 15 fuel stops between Mississippi and Oregon. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what if I call a community that I knew, because we operated all over the U.S., and ask them to bring a veteran out to the airport where we stopped for fuel, and we just gave them a flight. It's like, we're going to be there anyway, yes. Right? I mean, a little bit extra fuel, you know, another hour of time or whatever. Sure. And I thought it would just be it seemed like the trip would be just more purposeful that way, right? So Dad, I sprung it on my dad kind of at the last minute because he was pretty conservative, and he doesn't think outside the box quite as much as I do. And so I kind of had it lined up when we were on the way to the airport, and I said, oh, by the way, here's what I've done. And you're going to have to pay for it. So we picked up his airplane, and we got to Mississippi, Oxford, Mississippi. And we were a little bit late, so I flew over the airport, and I looked down, and I could see the facility bus parked down there, and 20, 30 people milling around. And I landed, and they started clapping when I turned the airplane off. It's like I had no idea what to expect. I had never done this. I didn't have a lot of time in this kind of airplane, so I was pretty nervous about flying. It's a brand new airplane. And so I just had no idea what to expect and was very kind of unprepared, but I figured we'd just figure it out. So Hugh Newton was a World War II veteran. And I got him loaded in. We took some pictures. I gave him a flight, got him back. He's just all smiles, just like what you saw today. Sure. And his friends and family and stuff were just clapping. And his wife came up to me at the end, and I was sitting in the cockpit. She reached up and put her hand on the shoulder. She says, "You have no idea what you've just done for my husband." And so Dad and I went to the hotel that night, and it's like we were just blown away. It was such a rich experience. Yeah. Because, again, we didn't know what to expect. And so they used to put newspapers on the front of your hotel room door back in the day, okay? And the next morning I walk out, and I'm looking down, and I see the newspaper, and there's a picture of Hugh and I in the airplane on the front page of the paper. Wow. So the next stop we went to, my wife, she was home, and so I was sending her pictures and talking to her on the phone, and I was just like sky high excited. And so we went to Jasper, Alabama, and we gave our next flight there to Lloyd Latham, and he was a World War II veteran. His entire living family came out to see his flight. And again, it was the same thing. It was just this wonderful experience. We gave 25 flights on the way back, and every one of them was, and it was just like this 2-week. It's like you're addicted to drugs and you're on this binge, because just emotionally, it was so rich. And so when we got back, and again, no designs on doing this past just that trip. Sure. My wife said, when we got back, she goes, "Why would we stop? Why don't we keep doing this?" And so she's a legal professional, an accountant, and she goes, "I'll file all the paperwork for the nonprofit and handle all the accounting and everything. But," she goes, "you got to promise me no money, no flying. You got to raise the money." And that's where direct supply came in. So I went off on that trip, not even in the mindset of doing this past a barnstorming trip with my dad. Yeah. Okay. And here you go, 7,000 flights later.
Yeah. That's incredible.
In 49 states.
Yeah. What was it like when it started to sort of pick up steam and take off? No pun intended.
Yeah, well, honestly, even for the first couple years, I thought that, I was starting my business, so I had time to devote to it. So it kept me occupied, and it kept me, I enjoyed it. But it was just me. I was just flying, and I had a buddy that was my crew chief, and so for the first 3.5 years, I did all the flying. I did everything, pretty much. And I thought maybe what would happen is it would just be this kind of passing thing, right, that I did when I had time, and then as my business grew, it just kind of fall by the wayside. But people kept giving money. Literally, they just kept making donations, and then people started donating airplanes, and I really wasn't even, I've never even sent out a fundraising letter.
Wow.
Okay, we call people and we talk to them, and we obviously have to raise money, but you heard my story about Sport Clips. I mean, they contacted me.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it wasn't like it was this overnight thing. It just kept progressing.
Sure.
So we gave I gave 50 flights that first year. When my dad paid for the first 25. Brad and Direct Supply, they committed to some money. 3 hours later, I got a call from somebody that knew Brad. They hadn't even talked about it. And I talked to him about what I was doing. He says, I'll match Direct Supplies.
Whoa.
And then a week later, I had the rest of the money I needed from people I knew committed. And so I did another 25 flights, and I kind of did a trip around I went out to the Midwest and came back to the West, just kind of planting seeds. The next year I did 102 flights. The next year it was 275, then it went to 425, and last year we were at 789 flights.
One year.
Yeah.
That is a lot of flights.
Yeah.
Lives you're touching by doing these flights is
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. And what I didn't realize, about the second year, I got a call from the administrator where I gave my second dream flight. And Lloyd was in great shape. And the administrator called me and said, hey, I just wanted you to know Lloyd passed away. And I was like, that, you're trying to ruin my day, She goes, no. She goes, here's what I want you to know. A year later, after all he had done in his life, he had one picture on his casket. And that was of us in front of the airplane. Because I sent him an 8x10. We send a certificate to every dream flyer. And I'd sent him one, and that was the one on his casket. So I'm not trying to over-dramatize this. I've just seen it over time. What we're doing for people and families is giving them, in many cases, their last best experience. And what happens is that when they go on to pass away, their families remember them as flying in a biplane, not as having health issues. And, it sort of cements that image of their dad or mom doing something really cool. And that was brought home to me literally on Sunday. I was in Louisville, Kentucky. The VFW is one of our partners, and I was at their national convention for the first time. And I had a guy come up to me, and he pulled out his phone. He says, you guys gave my dad a flight 4 years ago in Lewiston, Idaho. He was 99 years old, and he passed away at 101. And he says, we have his flight certificate in our living room.
Wow.
So
it's a number for the families too.
it is. Again, when I first started doing it, I didn't realize the power, the kind of the staying power of it, But to be able to give somebody, these veterans today, what they've done for us. One of the gentlemen spent 2 years in Vietnam. To give that for us, and now here he is, he's in a senior living community and things aren't working as well as he'd like them to work. And to give him that shot in the arm, and to get to be relevant and purposeful, with his family and you guys' cameras and the media and everything here, it's
outstanding.
And it comes at a time in their life when they really need it the most. So I wish I had thought of all that before it started, but I just fell into. I just fell into it. I mean, that's a long-winded explanation but it's a very powerful thing.
Absolutely.
So if you could say the mission of Dream Flights, what would you summarize it as?
Well, our stated mission is to give back to those who gave. Okay. It should be a tagline in there, when they need it most. Because at this point in their life, they need it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's better probably than most medication that they're on.
Shot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
Right.
At the very least that.
Right. So that's it. They've given us so much. Now here at a time when they really need a uplifting experience, we can say thank you to them.
Yeah.
If a community was interested in doing this for their seniors, how would you suggest they go about?
If someone wants to have us come do dream flights for their residents and veterans, they need to go on our website, dreamflights.org, and there's an application on there.
Okay.
And so what happens is we open up, they can put an application in any time, but we send out information seeking applications in December, right around the 1st of December, and then we ask people to have them in by like the 10th of January, because then we can take the applications and we can start planning. We use the month of February to plan our routes, and then in March we start calling, and in April we start flying. So it's tough because we have over 300 applications typically a year, and we can only do about 140.
Sure.
You know.
If somebody isn't in a senior living community and they want to support Dream Flights, what's the best way to do that?
If they want to support financially, they can go once again to dreamflights.org, and we have we have methods for them to donate different programs. And then if they want to volunteer, I've talked to someone here that potentially from Direct Supply that wants to volunteer. They can just fill out a volunteer application, and then we can get back to them and try to figure out what's meaningful for them and what works for us.
Sure.
So.
That was incredible.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
Thank you guys. Direct Supply has had a huge impact, not only in their primary business, but when you think about it, they gave me the courage and the kind of the launch, and we've directly impacted 7,000 seniors, veterans.
Money very well spent, I'd say.
I think it's a pretty good return on their investment.
Yeah, I'd say. All right. Thanks so much.
All right.
We want to say thank you again to Ageless Aviation and Dream Flights for letting us come and be a part of this amazing day.
This foundation would not be possible without the efforts of the pilots, as well as countless other volunteers, donations, and other partners.
If you wanted to get involved, head to dreamflights.org to learn more about the opportunities near you.
As always, if you want to hear more from us, check out Tell Our Stories on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, or at TOS Senior Care on X and LinkedIn.
And if you have a story you want to share, send us an email at info@tellourstories.com.
Thank you for listening.